اتنا غریب تھا، گھٹنوں پہ چل رہا تھا، اتنا غریب تھا، اکبر تمہارا بابا اتنا غریب تھا۔ اے میرے گل بدن تو پیاسا ہے، مجھ کو غم ہے، یہ سوچ کر ابھی تک آنکھوں میں میرے نم ہے، پانی بھی دے نہ پائے، اتنا غریب تھا، اکبر تمہارا بابا اتنا غریب تھا۔ بینائی لٹ گئی تھی، مٹی میں رل رہا تھا، اکبر تیرا پتہ جب قاتل سے پوچھتا تھا، بنتا تھا میں تماشا، بنتا تھا میں تماشا، اتنا غریب تھا، بچے اٹھانے آئے اکبر تیرا جنازہ، ٹوٹی کمر پہ میں نے کوشش جو کی تھی بیٹا، پھر بھی اٹھا نہ پائے، اتنا غریب تھا، کھینچی تھی میں نے برچھی جس دم تیرے جگر سے، اے کاش دیکھتا تو کوئی میری نظر سے، گھٹ گھٹ کے مر رہا تھا، اتنا غریب تھا، اکبر تمہارا بابا اتنا غریب تھا۔ صلوات۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہم۔ بارہ دیگر نعرہ صلوات۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہم۔ صلوات۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہم۔ یہ کون سی مستورہ ہے، کیا مانگ رہی ہے، اسلام کی خدمت کا صلہ مانگ رہی ہے، ہر صاحب غیرت سے ردا مانگ رہی ہے، اے پردیس میں مرنے کی دعا مانگ رہی ہے، افسردہ ہے افلاک، سیاہ پوش زمین ہے، افسردہ ہے افلاک، سیاہ پوش زمین ہے، جبریل ذرا دیکھیے زینب تو نہیں ہے، یہ کون سی مستورہ ہے؟ صلوات بر محمد والے محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
بابا مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، بابا مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، تنہائی سے وحشت سے مجھے آ کے نکالو، بابا مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، ہاری ہوئی تقدیر ہے اب ساتھ میں میرے، کرتے کی جلی خاک ہے اب ہاتھ میں میرے، تقدیر کی ماری کو گلے آ کے لگا لو، تنہائی سے وحشت سے مجھے آ کے نکالو، بابا مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، گالوں پہ تماچوں کے نشاں آ کے تو دیکھو، یہ تیری جدائی میں سزا ملتی ہے مجھ کو، مر جاؤں گی رو رو کے، مجھے آ کے سنبھالو، تنہائی سے وحشت سے مجھے آ کے نکالو، بابا مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، کربل سے تجھے شام تلک دی ہیں صدائیں، افسوس مگر تو نے سنی نہ میری آہیں، آغوش میں اب اپنی مجھے آ کے سلا لو، تنہائی سے وحشت سے مجھے آ کے نکالو، بابا مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، نہ روش روشنی کوئی نہ کوئی تازہ ہوا ہے، سینے میں میرا سانس بھی اب رکنے لگا ہے، اس گھور اندھیرے سے مجھے آ کے نکالو، تنہائی سے وحشت سے مجھے آ کے نکالو بابا، مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، زندان کے اندھیرے میں مجھے نیند نہ آئے، بابا ہے میرے چاروں طرف موت کے سائے، بس ایک دفعہ مجھ کو سینے پہ سلا لو، تنہائی سے وحشت سے مجھے آ کے نکالو بابا، مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو، احساس یتیمی کے سائے میں رہی ہوں، بابا تیرے قاتل کے میں ساتھ چلی ہوں، غربت پہ میری آ کے ذرا آنسو بہا لو، تنہائی سے وحشت سے مجھے آ کے نکالو بابا، مجھے زنداں کے اندھیرے سے بچا لو۔ صلوات پر محمد وآل محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
کیا پڑھا ہے بارے دیگر نعرہ صلوات۔ اللہم صلی علی
محمد وآل محمد۔
سکینہ شام کے زندہ میں تھی علم سے نڈھال، سکینہ شام کے زندہ میں تھی علم سے نڈھال، کبھی چچا کا تصور، کبھی پدر کا خیال، کبھی رباب سے باتیں، کبھی پھوپھی سے مکان، کبھی خاموش، کبھی عابد حضیر سے خیال، کبھی خاموش، کبھی عابد حضیر سے سوال، ارے چچا کب آئیں گے دریا سے لوٹ کر، بھیا یہاں سے نہر کا ہے کس قدر سفر، بھیا یہاں سے نہر کا ہے کس قدر سفر، بھیا میں کربلا میں رہی منتظر نہیں آئے، لائن لے گئے میرے گوہر نہیں آئے، جلا دیے گئے ہم سب کے گھر نہیں آئے، صدائیں دیتی رہی میں مگر نہیں آئی، صدائیں دیتی رہی میں مگر نہیں آئی، ہوائے سرد ترائی میں جب ملے ہوں گے، تھکے ہوئے تھے بہت نیند آ گئی ہوگی، تھکے ہوئے تھے بہت نیند آ گئی ہوگی، تڑپتی رہ کہتی تھی معصوم یوں ہی شام و سحر تسلیاں اسے دیتے تھے عابد مستر رباب روتی تھی بچوں کی بولی باتوں پر نگاہ یاد سے تکتی تھی زینب بے پر نگاہ یاد سے تکتی تھی زینب بے پر ارے پیام مرگ بنی دل کی بے کلے آخر چچا کے پاس بھتیجے چلی گئے آخر چچا کے پاس بھتیجے چلی گئی آخر یہ زخم تازہ جو اہل حرم کے دل پہ لگا تو قید خانے میں ایک حشر ہو گیا برپا تڑپ کے جانب عابد رباب نے دیکھا بس اتنا کہہ سکی ہے یہ کیا ہوا بیٹا بس اتنا کہہ سکی ہے یہ کیا ہوا بیٹا سنبھل سکا نہ دل پاش پاش بیٹھ گئی لگا کے سینے سے بچے کی لاش بیٹھ گئی لگا کے سینے سے بچے کی لاش بیٹھ گئی تڑپ کے آئی قریب رباب بنت علی کہا کہ بچی کو دے دیجئے مجھے بابی خدا کی مرضی میں انسان کا درد حبیبی یہ روز روز کی ایزوں سے بھی چھوٹ گئی یہ روز روز کی ایزوں سے بھی چھوٹ گئی نہ دن کو تڑپے گی اب اور نہ شب کو روئے جنا میں باپ کے سینے سے لگ کے سوئے گی جنا میں باپ کے سینے سے لگ کے سوئے گی تڑپ کے بول یہ عابد بہن خدا حافظ ملیں گے حشر میں اے خستہ تن خدا حافظ میری غریب میری کم سخن خدا حافظ عالم رسید غریب الوطن خدا حافظ عالم رسید غریب الوطن خدا حافظ بہن کو غسل و کفن تک نہ دے سکا بھائی تجھے تو علم ہے مجبور تھا تیرا بھائی تجھے تو علم ہے مجبور تھا تیرا بھائی سکینہ شام کے بہت سلامت رکھے آپ کو بہت شکریہ
جزاک اللہ آزاد آج کے I'd like you guys to recite a loud salawat for our salam and marsiya reciter of today. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Folks, everyone that's watching online and maybe perhaps you're on your way to IEC Husaini, I just want to remind everybody that the salat time has been pushing back and the majalis is going to be started based on the timing that's published on the flyer. So always please keep that in mind and try to be here on time. I know you have a lot of majalises to attend, but try to make your best effort to be here, at the beginning of the majlis. Just a couple of announcements, inshallah. After this program, there's a majlis that I was asked to remind the community for the Shab-e-Azaa that's going to be scheduled after IEC Husaini. It's going to be at Zafar Bhai's house in Bloomingdale, requesting all the community members here, people that are watching online, to inshallah please attend this program. The details you can find at azadars.com, the specific address, or if you go to chicagoazadari.com. There are house majalises tomorrow as well. And the other significant fact that I would like to bring to your attention is tomorrow is going to be Maulana Bilal Rizvi Saab's fourth and last majlis of this entire series of 4 majalises. And Zia Bhai is also here from Atlanta, who's going to be doing Noha Khani here at IEC HUSAINI. I'm extremely honored once again. Today is this Majalis series third Majlis that's happening today. And I'm honored to have Maulana Bilal here amongst us. And I think the community and everybody is thankful for you to take the time out and be here at IEC HUSAINI. Entire board, people, there's a bunch of guys that got together and did the tabarruk for today's majlis as well. Please recite a loud salawat for our today's sponsor for the tabarruk as well. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajum. Without any further delay, it's my honor to request Maulana Bilal Rizvi to please come and recite the majlis. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad buland tareen salawat.
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. One more Surah Al-Fatiha for each of your marhumin while the mic is raised. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawm ad-din. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والسولة الحيدرية والاسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكادمية والحجج الردوية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النقوية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فمن يرد الله أن يهديه يشرح صدره للإسلام ومن يرد أن يضله يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد في السماء صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima al-Zahra in particular, a second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Indeed, a question of controversy, which Muslim scholars have dealt with throughout history and in modern times, is the question pertaining to whether Allah actually misguides people. Or in other words, can the act of misguidance be ascribed to Allah? You see, when it comes to this question or any other question which is controversial in its nature, you'll find that there will be different approaches and reactions to this question. For example, you find that within the Muslim world, when it comes to this question, there's one group of Muslims that looks at this question under the garb of predestination and jabar. For example, if you'll hear their dialogue, they'll say that if they see somebody who has gone astray, they'll say, what are we to do? At the end of the day, it is Allah who guides, it is Allah who misguides. Or if they see somebody who follows a different faith other than Islam, they'll say Allah guided him to that faith, Allah misguided him to that faith, and he didn't guide him towards Islam. You see, each of these answers, what they demonstrate is that the human being has a limited agency and a limited ability when it comes to his own guidance or his own misguidance. You find this is one group. A second group, when they come towards this question, you find that it makes them uncomfortable. At the end of the day, misguidance is not something which is positive. And it makes them uncomfortable that the Quran is saying that Allah, He misguides people. You know, oftentimes polemicists of other faiths, they'll say that what type of Lord do you have? On one end, He claims that He is a Lord of mercy. But after that, your Quran is saying that He explicitly misguides people, and after misguiding them, He places them in the fire of hell. This is something which is problematic. You see, regardless of what reaction you have towards this question, it is not a question that we can just sweep under the rug. Because we as Muslims need to acknowledge that there are several ayat and verses of the Quran which state that Allah misguides people. For example, you look at Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 125. What does Allah say in that verse? He says, فَمَن يُرِدُ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. That when Allah wants to guide somebody, He expands the breast of that individual to submit or to accept Islam. This expression in the Quran, to expand the breast, it's used in multiple places. What it means is that Allah increases the capacity and the readiness of the heart of that individual to accept the truth and to submit to the truth. But then the verse, it continues. It says, وَمَن يُرِدْ أَن يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيَّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Then it says when Allah wants to misguide somebody, He tightens and constricts the breast of that individual. When the sadr and the breast is constricted, you find the capacity of that individual to submit to the truth has been made more limited. And it says it is as if that person is traveling to the sky and going through the sky, and it is becoming constricted. So over here in this verse, Allah is saying that He misguides people. Another example, chapter 4, Surah An-Nisa, verse 4, verse 88. Chapter 4, verse 88. Allah says in that verse, أَتُرِيدُونَ أَن تَهْدُوا مَنْ أَضَلَّ اللَّهُ وَمَن يُضْلِلِ اللَّهُ فَلَن تَجِدَ لَهُ سَبِيلًا. That it is saying that do you want to guide those whom Allah has misguided? The one who Allah has misguided, there is no path for that individual. Another example. No, I'll give you a third example. In Surah An-Nahl, in the 16th chapter of the Quran, the 93rd verse of that chapter, Allah, He says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا وَلَكِنْ يُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ. That if Allah wanted you, He would have made you all one ummah and one nation. But the reason Allah does not make you one nation is because He misguides whom He wants to misguide, and He guides whom He wants to guide. You see, these are just a few examples from dozens of verses in the Quran which state that Allah misguides people. Now the challenge with these verses is this, that number one, misguidance is a negative act. The Quran condemns many individuals for misguiding. At the end of the day, why does Allah condemn shaitan in the Quran? Allah condemns shaitan because he misguides people. Another example, Allah mentions that there were a group of individuals who would misguide others within this world. And then in Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28, verse 41, Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا أَئِمَّةً يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ لَا يُنصَرُونَ. These individuals, we have made them the imams and the leaders who would invite to Jahannam and the fire, and on the day of judgment they will have no supporters. In other words, the Quran, when it says they will have no supporters on the day of judgment, it is condemning these people who would misguide and take others to the fire of hell. Now, I'll give you another example. In the 16th chapter of the Quran, in the 144th verse of that chapter, Allah says, فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا لِيُضِلَّ النَّاسَ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. The Quran says that whom is more zalim, who is more of an oppressor than that person who ascribes a lie to Allah? Why? He ascribes that lie to misguide mankind without having any knowledge. Each of these verses which I quoted is condemning a group of individuals for misguiding. But then on the other side, the Quran is saying that Allah misguides. So this is the first challenge that we need to solve. The second challenge when it comes to this question is the fact that on one side, the Quran is saying that Allah, He gives reward and Allah, He gives punishment. Allah is the one who sends to heaven, Allah is the one who sends to hell. But over here, one can say, oh Allah, your Quran says that you are the one who guides, and you are the one who misguides. If at the end of the day you misguided me, then it is not just for you to throw me in the fire of hell. You find that this question pertains to the adl and the justice of Allah. But from the third level, this question poses a problem in the sense that when you look at the system of Allah and the religion of God, Allah, He goes through a great amount of effort to guide mankind, that He has given us an aql and an intellect which can understand. And He has given us a fitra and a nature which has the truth within it. He sent us prophets, each of them with miracles. He sent us imams who protect the deen. All of these different things which He sent us, the Prophet, the Quran, the A'immah, is why? At the end of the day, all of this was to guide us. So then, if you are going through all of these pains and measures to guide us, O Allah, then why is it that the Quran is saying that you are the one who misguides? You see, when it comes to this question, there are many different groups in the Muslim world who sought to answer this question. And each of them would try to answer this question based upon the principles of their own theological school. When you look within the Muslim world today, the majority of the Sunni world in aqaid and belief are Ash'aris. When it comes to fiqh, either they're Malikis, or they're Hanafis, or they're Hanbalis, or they're Shafi'is. But when it comes to aqaid, they are known as Ash'arites or Ash'aris. You see, the first quality of the Ash'aris and their first main principle is that they believe in predestination. Their second principle is that they say that Allah is the one who creates the action within a human being. And at the third level, they say that one cannot rationally understand good and evil. In other words, what Allah does is good, and what Allah commands is good, and what He prohibits is evil. So if Allah wants to throw a pious person in the fire of hell, it's no problem. At the end of the day, it is the domain of Allah. Allah is Al-Qadir. Allah has the power. Allah does what He wants. But you find when you have such premises within your theological school, then naturally you are going to understand, you are going to say that when Allah misguides, it is completely His domain and one is not to ask questions. But no, there are other Muslims who said that if the Quran states that Allah guides mankind and Allah misguides mankind, then there must be a criteria based upon which He guides and which He misguides. And that's why tonight in this majlis, I want to explore this important question of whether Allah actually misguides people. Kya Allah logon ko gumrah karta hai? And we'll use this question and we'll discuss it in a number of stages. From the first level, we'll examine what are the different types of hidayat and guidance in the life of man. And in what way is there a general guidance and a specific guidance for the believers? From the second level, we'll examine what is the relationship of misguidance to guidance, and in what ways are there two types of misguidance. Number three, we'll examine that what was the answer of Allama Tabatabai to this question of whether Allah misguides people. From the fourth level, we'll examine in what ways did Allah misguide certain people in Islamic history, and in what ways did Allah guide certain individuals to the path of Ahlul Bayt. And from the fifth level, we'll examine what is the meaning of the tradition of Imam as-Sadiq when the Imam says that when Allah desires good for a person, He guides them and He places within their heart the love of Imam al-Hussein and the love of the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein. And in this way, through this discussion, we'll understand the nature of hidayah and guidance, we'll understand the nature of dalala and misguidance, and we'll understand that how can we use these days of Muharram to increase our capacity to gain the guidance of Allah after a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You see, when it comes to this question of whether Allah misguides people, to understand misguidance, we need to understand what is the nature of hidayah and guidance. That's why when you look in the Quran, you'll find that within the Quran, the word hidayah, guidance, and its derivatives are used in 316 places within the Quran. And what they demonstrate is that guidance is not of the same type. You know, if I asked you the question that, where is IEC HUSAINI? You can, number one, give me the address and say IEC HUSAINI is at this address. But the second thing you can do is that you can come to me, you can place me in your car, and then after that you can take me to Hussaini. Both of these forms of guidance, I end up at my destination, but their nature is something which is different. What this example demonstrates is that guidance is not of the same type. And that's why when we look at the life of the human being, you'll find that there are 4 different types of guidance in the life of man. The first type of guidance in the life of a human being is a type of guidance which all of Allah's creation has. You see, all of Allah's creation within their nature are being guided towards perfection. And the fact that they demonstrate their perfection is a sign for the wujud and the existence of Allah. When you look at the system and you see the perfection of nature, you see each creation carrying out its purpose, this is a sign for the existence and the wujud of Allah. And in this manner, Allah, He guides every creation in their taqween and their nature. You know, Allah says in Surah Taha, chapter 20, verse 50, He says, قَالَ رَبُّنَا الَّذِي خلق كل ربنا الذي أعطى كل شيء خلقا ثم هدى. That the Quran says, He says that our Lord is the one who gives every single thing its created form and then it guides it. When the Quran says that it gives every single thing, كل شيء, its guidance, That means kulla shay includes insan, it includes other than insan. And in that manner, every single thing is being guided. Allah has given us an aql. Allah has given us a fitra and a nature. He has given us free will. So in this level, the first level of guidance in the life of human beings is a type of guidance which is shared with other creation. But then there is a second level of guidance which is just maksoos to the human being and those who have aql. And that is the type of guidance that Allah has sent the prophets, He has sent the A'immah, and in this manner the prophets and the A'immah are only for those creation who have the free will like the human being and the jinn. Over there Allah says in chapter 32 verse 24, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ. That we have made from amongst them imams, and these imams they guide by our command. Why? Because they are patient and because they are certain within our signs. So at the first level, you find that within their takween, within their creation, all of the creation of God is being guided. At the second level, there is a type of guidance to the Sharia and the religion which is only for those who have aql and intellect. But then there is a third type of guidance. This third type of guidance is what we call tawfiq. You see, the Quran in chapter 47, verse 17, it says, وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى. Those people who are already guided, who already have hidayat, Allah increases the guidance of those individuals. Now, I'll give you another ayat. Surah Yunus, chapter 10, verse 9. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ يَهْدِيهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِإِيمَانِهِمْ. Those who have iman and those who act righteously, your Lord guides them because they have iman. I say, oh Allah, you already said they believe, and you already said they act righteously. Why is there a second level of guidance? Why do you need to guide them? Allah is demonstrating that within the life of a human being, after their free will, they have accepted Allah and they have acted in the way of Allah. Allah exponentially increases the guidance of that individual. You know, there are many people, they left with Imam al-Hussein from Medina, from Mecca, but their name is not in that fahrist and the list of the shuhada. You know, it's very famous at the Maqam of Zubala, one of the halting stations to Karbala, when Imam al-Hussein got news of the shahadat of Muslim ibn Aqil, Imam al-Hussein announced the situation in Kufa, he announced the shahadat of Hazrat Muslim. And when he announced that, there were several individuals who did not have that tawfiq, that special guidance, and they left Imam al-Hussein at that moment. But then there was somebody like Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, wherever Imam al-Hussein would stop, Zuhair would not meet Imam al-Hussein. Even though he was going towards Kufa, he was going in the same direction. But then at one halting station, Imam al-Hussein sends his messenger to Zuhair. And Zuhair rejects the messenger. But then the wife of Zuhair says, oh Zuhair, the son of Fatima is calling you, but you're not going. Zuhair, he goes and he meets with Imam al-Hussein. And the maqatil, they don't record what conversation took place. But whatever conversation it was, Zuhair, he returns. And he says to his wife that you are free to go. And he says to his servant that you are free to go. I am going with Hussein. That what tawfiq and guidance does Allah give Zuhair? That at the beginning of this journey, he is not meeting with Imam al-Hussein. But by the end of the journey, he is included in that group that we say, Assalamu alaikum ya ansara dinillah. That you, O Ashab of Hussein, you are not just the companions of Imam al-Hussein, but you are the companions of the deen of Allah. Assalamu alaikum ya ansara Rasulullah. No, you are not just the companions of the deen of Allah. You are the companions of Rasulullah, of Ali ibn Abi Talib, of Fatima al-Zahra, of Imam al-Hasan. Then after that you say, Tibtum wa tabatil ardil lati fiha dufintum. That not only are you tayyib, not only are you blessed, but even that khak where you are buried, even that is blessed. You know, in this line of ziyarat, it is not saying that it is because of Imam al-Hussein that that khak is blessed. But it is saying that even where you are buried, O Ashab of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that khak around you becomes blessed. Yes, Imam al-Hussein, that blood of when his blood is spilled, that land of Karbala becomes khak al-Shafa. But this ziyarat is saying there is another fazilat to the land of Karbala. That fazilat is that the ashab of Imam al-Hussein is buried. That what is the greatness of Imam al-Hussein, that he elevates these individuals to such a maqam. And that maqam is only attained that these individuals, out of their own ikhtiyar and their free will, they struggled in the way of Allah. And when they struggled in the way of Allah, Allah, He increased their guidance. You see, the beauty of the system of Allah is this, is that Allah is saying, O mankind, when you make a mistake, you are only taking one step backwards. But when you work in my direction, I exponentially increase that progress. That isn't the hadith there, that when one sins, it is one sin. But when one does a hasana and a good deed, it is recorded as 10 good deeds. No, another hadith that says, a hadith al-Qudsi, Man taqarraba ilayya shibran, taqarrabtu ilayya dira'an. The one who comes to me by the span of a hand, by the length of a hand, I come close to him by the length of an arm. In other words, you take one step towards Allah, Allah metaphorically takes 10 steps towards you. And that is why the Quran in Surah Al-Ankabut, in chapter 29, verse 63, it says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. That those who struggle in our way, we guide them to our paths. No, I'll give you another ayat. Allah in Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 144, it says, Ya ayyuhalladina amanu, ittaqullah wa amanu bi rasulihi. You know, the ayat is strange. It says, O sahib iman, O you who believe, have taqwa and believe in Rasulullah. You cannot become a person of iman unless you already believe in the Prophet. But now the ayat is saying that have belief in Rasulullah. In other words, one level of belief is to accept him as a messenger. But then there is a second level of belief when your wujood is drowned in the love of Muhammad Mustafa, in that belief in Rasulullah. But then it says that if you have taqwa, and if you have belief in the Prophet, يُؤْتِيكُمْ كِفْلَيْن مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ, that Allah will give you 2 portions of His mercy. وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ نُورًا تَمْشُونَ بِهِ, that if you have iman, if you have taqwa, if you struggle in the way of Allah, Allah will give you His mercy, and He will make for you a nur and a light by which you are going to walk. You see, what is the quality of nur and light? If this room was dark, pitch dark, you wouldn't be able to see anything. Nur allows you to see. And the Quran shows that there is a second type of nur and guidance, that it is not physical. This type of nur which is there, which is another term for hidayat and guidance, this allows you to see the path of Allah. You know, I remember one tradition, it says that a companion comes to Imam as-Sadiq. And when he comes to Imam as-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, when he comes to the Imam, he says to the Imam that give me your knowledge. The Imam says to that companion that لَيْسَ الْإِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ إِنَّمَا هُوَ نُورٌ يَقَعُ فِي قَلْبِ مَنْ يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى إِنْ يَهْدِيَهُ. That knowledge is not gained by learning, but knowledge is a nur and a light that Allah places in the hearts of those whom He wants to guide. You see, what this tradition is showing is that knowledge is at the third level of guidance, that true knowledge is a type of nur. And that light allows you to see what the path of Allah is, and it allows you to see what your direction is. That's why Imam as-Sadiq in another tradition, he says that man amila bima alim kufiya bima lam ya'lam. That the one who acts upon what he knows, that is enough for him in terms of what he doesn't know. In other words, if you act upon the knowledge that you have, which you gain through the five senses, through listening, through reading, then Allah will give you a second type of knowledge. And that second type of knowledge is a nur, it is a guidance which Allah has given to you. That when you look at many of the companions of Ahlul Bayt, you find that they had ilm which they gained through the senses. But then Allah gave them a second type of ilm that no matter what happened, they stayed on the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. They stayed on the path of Ahlul Bayt. That when Amir al-Mu'mineen says, O Mitam, a day will come that your tongue will be cut, O Mitam, and you will be killed because you will be reciting my virtues. What will you do on that day, O Mitam? Mitam says that on that day, even if they cut my body and my limbs and they burn my body and I'm come back to life and they do it 70 times, I will do that. The Imam says, O Mitam, this is that tree where you'll be hung. You know what Mitam al-Tammar would do? He would go to that tree and he would water that tree. And he would say that you were created for me and I was created for you. Then that day it came that Mitam is placed upon that tree. And the man, he says that I'll do everything. I'll kill you, I'll cut your arms, but I won't cut your tongue. Because if I don't cut your tongue, this will be proof that your master Ali was wrong about his prediction. So at that moment, Mitam begins to say that I am the follower of that Imam who was in Makkah and Mina, in Makkah and Medina. I am the follower of that Imam who was with Rasulullah in battle and he was with Rasulullah at home. He is the one who had the knowledge of the Quran, and in this manner as he's reciting the virtues of Imam Ali, the man says, cut the tongue of Mitam al-Tammar. You see, these companions are those individuals that they had the first level of guidance which is given to all of creation by the fact that they have been given the faculties to reach perfection. They had the second level of guidance which is given to insan, that they were guided to the deen of Allah. They had the third level of guidance that Allah gave them tawfiq and His special guidance. But the fourth level of guidance, which is in the life of man within the Quran, is that man will be guided to paradise. And that is why the Quran in Surah Ar-Ra'd, it says that when the mu'mineen, they enter paradise, what they will say is, Alhamdulillahi alladhi hadana lihada wa ma kunna lanahtadiya lawla an hadanallah. That they'll say, all praises belong to Allah for guiding us over here. And if Allah did not guide us, then we would not be over here. So when we examine the Quran is showing that there are four types of hidayat. And one of those types of hidayat is a special type of hidayat after you have worked in the cause of Allah and after you have iman. But now the second level of this discussion is that what is the relationship of misguidance to guidance? Because if we are going to answer this question of whether Allah misguides people, then we need to understand that what is misguidance and what relationship does it have to hidayat. You see, to understand the relationship of misguidance to guidance, we have to understand the relationship of darkness to light. You see, darkness does not have a wujud. Darkness does not have an existence. When the light is not present, darkness is there. You know, to make this room dark, all you have to do is turn off the light switch. You don't have to turn on another switch, which is the darkness switch. The moment light is gone, it becomes dark. And this is the relationship of misguidance to guidance. Misguidance does not have a wujud. The moment hidayat is absent, misguidance, it comes over here. So you find when the Quran, it says that Allah misguides people, what is the answer to this? The first answer to this is that everything is in the domain of Allah. That Allah has given ikhtiyar to everyone. The fact that Allah has given everyone free will, and based on that free will, they act in the way of Allah or against the way of Allah, ultimately everything goes back to Allah. Even shaitan is operating within the qudra and the domain of Allah. Nothing is outside of the qudra of Allah. So when the Quran, it says that Allah logon ko gumrah karta hai, that Allah misguides people, the Quran is saying the reason that we say this is that Allah gives the capacity to everyone. It is not that Allah is not giving them free will and He is misguiding them without their ikhtiyar. This is the first answer. The second answer to this question is found within the ayat of the Quran. Because there is a criteria upon which Allah misguides. You know, Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 10, He says, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا, that in their hearts was a disease, and all Allah did was increase that disease. No, another ayat it says, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ, that when they turned away from Allah, Allah made their hearts turn away. So what the Quran is showing, that these individuals whom Allah misguides, out of their own free will, they acted against the path of Allah. And out of their own ikhtiyar, they rejected Allah. And when they do that out of their own free will, then only then Allah misguides them. But no, Allama Tabatabai says something more ajib. He says that no, this is not even the answer. He says that it is not in the rahmat of Allah to take somebody through a downward spiral. You know, if I'm in a new city, and I don't know where I'm going, and I'm driving the car, for me to be lost is enough that you turn off my GPS. You don't have to take the car and to take it in a different direction. What Allama Tabatabai is saying, that when the Quran says Allah misguides people, all Allah does is turns their GPS off. That He turns His guidance, His special guidance away from them. And the moment that special guidance is taken away, then they go down the path of misguidance. You know, there are many examples in Islamic history of individuals who are with Ahlul Bayt, but they turned away from Ahlul Bayt. You've heard the name of Zubair. How many years were there from the battle of Jamal, from the death of Rasulullah? There are only 25 years from the battle of Jamal to the death of Rasulullah. You know, this Zubair was so close to Amir al-Mu'mineen that after Saqifa happens, the first person to come to the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen was Zubair. And Zubair says to the Imam that, "Oh my master, if you give us the command, we will uprise with you. Why do you not go and take your right back?" The Imam says, "Oh Zubair, if I had 40 individuals, I would fight for my right." Zubair says, "We are already 40 individuals. Why do you not fight for your haqq?" The Imam then says, "If you are truthful, then come to my doorsteps with your head shaved." You know, in the culture of the Arabs, to come with your head shaved, it meant that we are ready for battle. that game over, we are ready for our necks to be cut for you. You know, when that day it came, the next day, you know how many of the 40 showed up? Only 4 individuals. Salman, Abu Dhar, Miqdad, and Zubair. You see, this is how close Zubair was to Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Zubair was actually the first cousin of Imam Ali. The mother of Zubair was the sister of Abu Talib alayhi salam. So you find that they were first cousins. But within 25 years, what happens to a man that he was such a strong supporter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and then he opposes the Imam on the day of Jamal? You know, on the Battle of Jamal, when Zubair was over there, the Imam said, "Oh Zubair, come." And Zubair, he comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the Imam says, "Oh Zubair, do you remember that day when we were sitting with Rasulullah? And as we were sitting with Rasulullah, you kept looking at my face time and time again. So Rasulullah said to you, Atuhibbu Aliyan, Zubair, do you love Ali? You said that, oh Rasulullah, Ali is my relative and Ali is an individual of virtue. How can I not love Ali ibn Abi Talib?" And then Rasulullah said to you, Zubair, that do you know a day will come when you will fight this Ali ibn Abi Talib? You know, when Amir al-Mu'mineen said this to Zubair, Zubair decided that I will not partake in this battle. But as Zubair was leaving, one of the individuals, they hunted down Zubair and they killed Zubair. After Zubair was killed, the sword of Zubair was brought to Imam Ali. And when Imam Ali saw that sword, he began to speak about the sword of Zubair. Now this doesn't mean that Zubair was forgiven, but there is another lesson behind this. When the Imam receives the sword of Zubair, he says, this is that sword which would defend Rasulullah. And this is that sword which would cut the necks of the disbelievers. And the Imam recited virtue after virtue of the sword of Zubair. But you know what lesson is behind this? This lesson is this, that no matter how good your resume was in Islamic history, no matter how many virtues you had, no matter how many accolades you had, if you left the side of Ali ibn Abi Talib, then all of those virtues, all of them have no value anymore. So you find that there were many individuals that Allah misguided them, that because of their own free actions, they made decisions. And when they made those decisions, that special guidance was taken away. And when that GPS was turned off, they went down in that spiral. But then there were other individuals, they went to the path of Allah, and Allah guided them to the doorstep of Ahlul Bayt in the most strangest of ways. You know, there was one individual by the name of Jundub ibn Junada. And Jundub ibn Junada belonged to a tribe that were thieves and highway bandits. One day Jundub, he is watching the idols of his tribe. And as he's watching the idols of his tribe, he notices that a fox goes to the idol. And the fox urinates on that idol. The moment that happens, Jundub says, that how can I worship an idol that cannot defend itself from an animal? But what logic and rationale is this? So that day, Jundub, he decided that from now on I will believe in a creator who is not these idols. One day, Jundub, as he's with his tribe, he hears that there is a man in Makkah who claims to be a prophet. The moment Jundub hears the name of Rasulullah, he decides, I'm going to go to Makkah. But when he arrives in Makkah, he doesn't know where Rasulullah is, because at that time the Muslims would remain hidden. They were in small number. So he decides that I'm going to sit in front of the Kaaba. So all morning, all day, he sits in front of the Kaaba. At night time, a man comes and he says that, are you not from here? He says, I'm not from here. The man says, come and sleep in my house. So Jundub sleeps in the house of the man. The second day, Jundub does the same thing. All day he sits in front of the Kaaba. Nighttime it comes, that same man, he sees Jundub. He says, oh man, yesterday you slept in my house. Today, tell me, why have you come? Why are you waiting over here? Jundub says that if I tell you, will you not tell anyone? That man says, I swear by Allah that I won't tell anyone. So Jundub says, I heard that there is a messenger and I want to meet that prophet. That man says, I will take you towards him. Jundub, he meets Rasulullah. Rasulullah tells him about Islam. That Jundub, he accepts Islam. The moment he accepts Islam, he goes out in front of the Kaaba and he says, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. The moment he says this, you find all of the kuffar of Quraysh, they begin to attack him. And you find Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, he saves this Jundub. Now imagine this man, that he is from a tribe of thieves. He doesn't know what Rasulullah is. He is sitting in front of the Kaaba. The first man when he meets, when the Muslims are only 20 and 30 in number, the first man he meets, he knows Rasulullah. You know who that Jundub was? That Jundub is that companion by the name of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. And that man whose house he slept in was Ali ibn Abi Talib. That what is the probability that the first person he meets in Makkah is Ali, that man whose companion he will be with for the rest of his life? So in this manner, Allah gave a special form of hidayat to Abu Dhar, that he took this man who was a Bedouin in the desert, and he takes this individual to the 8th level of Iman and belief. You find this is that reality. And each of these, us in these days of Muharram, we have the ability to increase our capacity to gain the hidayat and the guidance of Allah. And I'll tell you what I mean by this. You see, there is an expression in the Quran within the Hadith which talks about the hardness and the softness of the hearts. Now, what does this expression mean? And I'll give you an example to explain this expression. You know, oftentimes children, they play with something which is called Play-Doh. You know, when you keep that Play-Doh in the box, it remains soft. When that Play-Doh is soft, you can turn it into any form that you want. That it accepts whatever you place upon it, it accepts. But if you leave that Play-Doh out of the box, after a day when it becomes hard, can you change it? You can't change that Play-Doh. It is what it is. The hearts of the human being are the same way. When the hearts of insan is soft, they are able to gain the hidayat of Allah. And when the hearts of a human being is hard, they are not able to gain the hidayat of Allah. One of the ways that the hearts of an individual become soft is through the masayib of Ahlul Bayt. You see, there is no greater thing that we can do in these majalis besides the masayib of Imam al-Husayn. That's why when you look at the history of Ahlul Bayt, which I've been examining the past 2 nights, in the time period of Ahlul Bayt, the majlis was nothing but masayib. The majlis was just that martiya and that poetry which was recited for Imam al-Husayn. That's why Imam al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Imam al-Sadiq in a tradition, he says, Nafasul mahmum lana al-mukhtam lidulmina tasbih. That sorrowful breathing for the masayib of us Ahlul Bayt. You know, when a person has anxiety, they begin to breathe heavy. When a person is crying, they begin to breathe heavy. The Imam is saying that that breath which is taken during our masayib for our sorrow, that breath is the tasbih of Allah. وَحَمُّهُ لِأَمْرِنَا إِبَادَةً. And sorrow for what took place over us is the ibadat of Allah. Yani that breathing when you cry is Allah's tasbih. And that gham in your heart is the ibadat of Allah. And what this brings is that this brings guidance in the life of a human being. And that's why the Imam, as a conclusion to this majlis, he says, Man arad Allahu bihil khayra qadafa fi qalbihi hubb al-Husayn wa hubba ziyaratah. That when Allah desires good for an individual, when He wants to give khair to him, when He wants to give a special hidayat to him, Allah places in his heart the love of Hussein and the love of the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein. That's why Rasulullah, when he asked for something from his ummah, the Quran says, say, O Prophet, I ask for nothing except love for my family. But despite asking for nothing but love, what musibah did the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet go through? You see, amongst the greatest of that musibah is when Minhal, he says to Imam Zainul Abidin that, O Zainul Abidin, what was the most difficult moment? The Imam, he says, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. I say, Imam, in Karbala, your father was slaughtered in front of you. In Kufa, your sisters and your aunts were taken as captives. But what happened in Sham? You know, one riwayat from Imam Zainul Abidin and Biharul Anwar, that narration, it describes how Ahlul Bayt were taken to Sham. And the Imam says that when we were taken to Sham, all of the women were upon mules that had no saddles upon them. He says in front of us were the heads of the Shohada. And he says from all sides, the army of Yazid would surround us. But when they would surround us as we were going to Sham, they would point their arrows towards us. And whenever any of the women would cry, they would take those arrows and they would begin to stab the women of Ahlul Bayt. And then that point it comes when they reach the door of Sham. You know, for several hours they would stand at that door of Sham. And one riwayat it says that when they get to the door of Sham, they hang the head of Imam al-Hussein on the door of Sham. The moment Kulthum, she sees the head of her brother, she says, Ya Rasulallah, Hada Rasu Habibak al-Hussein maslubun. She says, Ya Rasulallah, look at the head of Hussein hanging here, Rasulallah. Then after that, that moment it comes that they enter the bazaar of Sham. You know, Imam al-Baqir was also within that caravan. Imam al-Baqir says that within the bazaar of Sham, everyone would say, these Bughat, these rebels have come. And everyone would throw rocks towards us. And everyone from the top of their houses, they would pour boiling water upon us, Ahlul Bayt. At one point it came that boiling water was dropped upon my father Zainul Abidin. And when that water was dropped on Imam Zainul Abidin, the turban of Imam Zainul Abidin catches on fire. You know, as they were within the bazaar of Sham, there was a companion of Rasulullah by the name of Sal ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi. Sal, he goes to Imam Zainul Abidin and he says, I was a companion of your grandfather Rasulullah. Is there anything I can do for you? Imam Zainul Abidin says, Oh Sal, bring a piece of cloth for me. Sal says, I didn't understand, why did this man want a piece of cloth? The moment I brought that kapra, I brought that cloth, he takes that cloth and he places it within that chain within his neck. And then he says, Oh Sal, from Karbala to Kufa, the had always been burning my neck, O son. Then after that, that moment it comes that they enter the darbar in the courtyard of Sham. You know, when they enter that courtyard, Sayyida Zainab looks at Kulthum and she says, "Oh, Kulthum, do you recognize that lady who is next to Yazid? That lady is Hind who used to work within our home." The moment Hind, she sees this caravan, she says, "Min ayyi biladin antum?" That which city are you from? They say, "Nahnu min biladin Madina," we are from Medina. The moment Sayyida Zainab says Medina, Hind, she comes, she sits on the ground. She says that I was a servant in the house in Medina. Sayyida Zainab says, "Which house were you a servant in?" She says, "I was a servant in the house of Ali and Fatima." The moment she says Ali and Fatima in front of Sayyida Zainab, Sayyida Zainab says, "Do you know anyone in that house?" She says, "I know Zainab, I know Kulthum, I know Hussein." The moment she says Hussein, Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh, him, that is the head of Hussein, that head which your husband, he takes a stick and he hits the teeth of Abu Abdullah." Then Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh, him, I am Zainab, oh, him." At that moment, him, she runs to Yazid. "Ala la'anatullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. سيعلم الذين ظلموا ويا منقلب ينقلبون ماتم حسين." يا حسين.
یاد شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغاں. یاد
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغاں.
بس تیرا غم ہے میرے ساتھ میں جاتی ہوں جہاں. یاد
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغاں.
بس تیرا غم ہے میرے ساتھ میں جاتی ہوں جہاں. یاد
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغاں.
میرے بھیا ہو کہاں. یاد شبیر میں زینب یہی
کرتی تھی فغاں.
یاد
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغاں.
میں نے دیکھا ہے تیرے پیاسے گلے پر خنجر.
دیکھا ہے تیرے پیاسے گلے پر خنجر.
میں نے دیکھا ہے تیرے پیاسے گلے پر خنجر.
دیکھا ہے تیرے پیاسے گلے پر خنجر.
آج تک میرے کلیجے پا وہ خنجر ہے رواں. میرے بھیا ہو کہاں.
یاد شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغاں.
یاد
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغاں.
سو گیا دار
دشت میں ہر ناز اٹھانے والا
دشت میں ہر ناز اٹھانے والا
سو گیا دشت میں ہر ناز اٹھانے والا
دشت میں ہر ناز اٹھانے والا
کس کو دکھلائے سکینہ یہ تماچوں کے نشاں میرے بھیا ہو کہاں
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا یاد شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا
کوفہ و شام کے بازاروں سے گزری بھیا
شام کے بازاروں سے گزری بھیا
کوفہ و شام کے بازاروں سے گزری بھیا
شام کے بازاروں سے گزری بھیا
دیکھو بازو پاؤ بھر آئے ہیں رسی کے نشان میرے بھیا ہو کہاں
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا یاد شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا
چھن گئی سر سردہ میں گئی درباروں میں
سردہ میں گئی درباروں میں
چھن گئی سر سردہ میں گئی درباروں میں
سردہ میں گئی درباروں میں
گردن عابد بیمار میں تھی کوخ گراں میرے بھیا ہو کہاں
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا
ظلم سہ کے سکینہ نے بھی دم توڑ دیا
سہ کے سکینہ نے بھی دم توڑ دیا
ظلم سہ کے سکینہ نے بھی دم توڑ دیا
سہ کے سکینہ نے بھی دم توڑ دیا
پر میسر نہ ہوا غسل و کفن کا سامان میرے بھیا ہو کہاں
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا
یاد شبیر
میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا
بنت زہرا کے مسلسل تھے یہی بین رشید
کے مسلسل یہی بین رشید
بنت زہرا کے مسلسل تھے یہی بین رشید
کے مسلسل تھے یہی بین رشید
میرا عباس کہاں ہے میرے بھیا ہو کہاں میرے بھیا ہو کہاں
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا
یاد
شبیر میں زینب یہی کرتی تھی فغا
بس تیرا غم ہے میرے ساتھ میں جاتی ہوں جہاں یا حسین یا حسین
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله خاتم النبيين السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى ناصح الأمين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم يا قصة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن وكعبة الإيمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
صلي على جزاك الله.